Then you come into the 90s, as we moved, as I said, one part of India moved into free market embracing society, and therefore we had free pricing. So between the greed of the promoters and the savviness of the merchant bankers, we had free pricing taken to extended limits of logic. Any businessman will tell you, leave some money on the table. But somehow when it came to capital markets, it became a competitive race to the bottom. So if I went and told a promoter, I will get you a pricing of 100, Asit will go and say, I'll get you 105, Dakshesh will go and say, I'll get you 110, and I'm out of the game. So what you did in the process at each step of the game is you pushed more and more people away. You did not include people in this process, or you did not try to grow the denominator in number of investors. You were far more shorter term orientated on a transaction or a closure, that you did not quite think through what it is doing to investments as a whole, to investing community at large. So therefore the cynicism increased in Bollywood, therefore the cynicism increased in some left-leaning newspapers. Right? So the disconnect is there. We talk of financial inclusion, and then immediately you will have enough market pundits tell you that we need to have structured products. Right? So it's like, I went to a restaurant with my wife the other day, and he actually gave me a very fancy dish, the name. When I ate it, it tasted like aloo paratha. So I asked him, why didn't you call it aloo paratha? He said, then I could only charge 25 rupees. So we have this great desire to maximize on the small scale, not grow scale. So he was more keen to get 50 rupees out of me, or 75, I don't know, my wife pays. Ever since I joined SEBI, my wife picks up the tab. But he wanted to charge me 75 rupees for that whatever thing he called, instead of being able to sell 200 or 2000 aloo parathas at 25 rupees. So it's almost an us versus them. The us being the small community of insiders, whether it's promoters, whether it's people who advise promoters or merchant bankers or anybody in that small clique, and then is that large investing public. So when you have this us versus them kind of conflict, each one would be very contemptuous about the other. One has nothing to lose, that's the investing public, so they will say it loudly. The other will simply take the knife out. So for me, understanding Indian consumer, Indian investor behavior is extremely important. Investing is a habit for the adult. It is not a habit for the teenager. But I am not talking in terms of age. I am talking in terms of maturity. Investing is a matter of attitude. Investing is about willing to accept accountability for your own acts. It can't be, Asit told me to buy this, I lost money, it's all Asit's doing. We as individuals have to. So you need to have a two-pronged thing. As you protect investors, it is so important to educate investors so that they understand what they are getting into. And if you do that, then there is a better chance that more people will come into this business. If you look at the world of capital markets, the key to markets is finally, it deals in a currency called trust. It takes years and centuries to build it. As we have seen a couple of years ago in the middle of the crisis, it doesn't take much time to lose it all. So trust is that intangible but the biggest thing that works for you in the financial world. And the two components that determine trust, one is comfort and the other is confidence. Whether it's man-woman relationship or man-investment relationship, the rules are the same. Right? You need to have comfort and confidence with the other party. In the realm of comfort, I think we have done a lot of good things in this country. Today, for example, if you look back in the 90s, the three biggest problems for investors. What were the three biggest problems for investors? One, if I bought a share or sold a share, I was at the mercy of the broker to know what price it got executed at. And invariably, when you looked at the papers, your buy was at the high of the day and your sell was at the low of the day. Unless, of course, you were invited into this club to sit right there. So the number one pain point for investors was he had no control over actual execution. He was almost, he would put somewhere, it's a dark hole, and then out comes a contract note which will tell him what it was. The second big pain point was transfer. If I sent my shares for transfer in my name, I was never sure it will all come back duly transferred in my name. I was not even sure of when it will come back. And the third big fear was, if I apply for an IPO, when will I know the fate? And God forbid I don't get allotment, will I ever get refund? So in the 90s, these would have made, if I do a statistical analysis, 95% of investor complaints would have come into one of these three buckets. From a comfort standpoint, I think SEBI has done an outstanding job in addressing all of these. Because SEBI happened on the back of a scam, because there was so much focus on brokers and secondary markets, because of the way BSE reacted to SEBI's creation, the first 10-15 years of SEBI, what I call SEBI 1.0, was so focused on secondary markets. In writing rules, in bringing in changes, in bringing in regulations, in tightening the market, in facilitating electronic trading, in facilitating depository creation. So SEBI 1.0 did a lot of work in secondary markets, which is why the secondary markets in India would be as advanced, if not more, than any part of the world. The cost of transacting in the secondary market for an investor in India is less than 1 basis point. The cost of transacting, I'm not including brokerage, I'm talking about the infrastructure cost. Less than 1 basis point, and 1 basis point is 1% of 1%. 0.01% is 1 basis point, and the cost of transacting in India is less than that. So the first two pain points, that लेने जाओ 20 रुपया, बेचने जाओ 18 रुपया, उसके ऊपर दलाली, that got fixed. There was an audit trail created by electronic trading. So if I gave the order at 11:03 and it was executed at 11:04, I had a mechanism, I as an investor had a mechanism to verify what price I got. The second part of it was transfer. That got addressed through the depository. Transfer became concurrent with settlement. So when I took delivery of shares, I took title of shares.